And welcome to an international hangover edition of Deerfield Fantasy Football. I am your host at Hot BFF with 2Ps, coming to you from St. Louis, Missouri. Dan is nursing a hangover, so much so to the point of where he can't record and couldn't even tell me he couldn't record. His girlfriend had to. So, if you follow him on Twitter at TheryBFF, you saw some interesting tweets last night.
Yeah.
Because he was a little screwed up. But that's all right. We've got a couple of awesome guests, or one awesome guest, and DJ joining us. Ben and DJ from Loaded Box Podcast. Ben, DJ, I know you're in bed on a pink pillow because you're not doing much better. How are you guys? It's been a while.
I'll let the hangover guy lead off this one.
I'm I'm hanging in there, just laying in bed, podcasting. That's how we roll around here.
One way or another. You know what? You're a trooper, though, unlike that co-host I have. You're
Exactly.
free to, you want to replace him?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, cool. Dan, you're out.
Part of me actually thought maybe it would be cool if Dan was able to make it and he was a shit show as well, because then we could have me and you hop. It looks like you're drinking.
I am drinking, as
Correct?
always. Yeah, I'm not hungover.
Yeah,
My night kind of ended early. Wife had to work in the morning, and I had a friend that got a little bit blacked out. So, I was a little bit this morning, got some food in me, and I'm fine.
Well, yeah, and in typical Loaded Box fashion, I just cracked my second beer of the day because we just recorded a podcast as well before this. So I thought it would be cool if you and I were drinking during this, and then DJ and Dan maybe just shared like stories of blurred memories from the night before.
Hungover. Now, I wouldn't put it beyond Dan if he does show up mid-episode. I mean, not sure if he will or not, but if he gets a wild hair, he might. But
nice.
Yeah, we're going to talk about some Black Monday fallout today. You can follow Ben and DJ. You want to give your Twitter handles real quick?
Yeah, I'll let DJ give his. I basically just go on our Loaded Box one. So you can find us at Loaded Box on Twitter. Our website is loadedboxpodcast.com. And I'll let DJ talk about his personal Twitter because that also can be a shit show some days.
Yeah, I'm at Loaded Box DJ, and I actually woke up this morning and saw I was in a fight with another Packer beat guy, and it was pretty hilarious. I was like, oh shit, I was going after a guy last night. So
wait, you don't remember being in that fight?
No, not at all.
All right.
Those are the best fights to be in, though.
They are.
Like, okay, well, I don't remember saying that, so it kind of didn't happen.
Yep, they are the ones you don't remember. At Beerfield FF for us. So just quick note on the off-season schedule. We are back to one a week. So we're doing Wednesday only episodes. We'll have guests for most of them, and that'll be pretty much up until the start of the NFL season. Maybe we may never do 2 a weeks again. We'll see. To be determined. But as I mentioned earlier, we're going to be talking about some Black Monday reactions. So I'll talk about all the coaching firings, changes, hirings, who people are interested in, etc., etc. Before we get started, going to go ahead and talk about what I'm drinking because it is a brewery provided beer.
What's fueling Beerfield?
All right, Ben, what are you drinking on? First off, I want to start with that. You got Busch Light, or are you drinking something better today?
So in the episode we just recorded for Loaded Box, we were doing a little against the spread gambling picks for Wild Card Weekend. I had my usual Busch Light for that one, but for this one, I'm actually drinking a Wisconsin beer from Hillsborough Brewing Company called Badger Sweat. I figured the Badgers are playing in the Rose Bowl today, might as well be festive. I'm gonna support the local team. I'm going to drink a little Badger Sweat today.
All right, I'm going to make you review it too since Dan's not here. What were some of your against the spread picks, if you don't mind me asking, or do I need to listen to the podcast to figure it out?
Well, I would recommend listening to it because a lot of the times it's more than just the picks. Mm-hmm. DJ and I, we give insight on the game, but also maybe about what he was doing last night, some unique angles of the game. We're a little bit off the wall when it comes to our against the spread picks, but DJ, when he decided to hit the reset button about 3 or 4 weeks ago, this dude has been one of the best NFL gamblers maybe that we've seen in recent history. So we had a couple of the same picks and a couple of different ones. I ended up going with the Texans, Patriots, Vikings, and Seahawks. And DJ, I forgot, what did you go with?
All the dogs.
You went all the dogs.
All
the dog
dogs.
days of winter.
All right, I started sports gambling for the first time this year, so we started giving some spread picks and things, and yeah, I actually didn't do too bad. I think up until I started to get cute with a bunch of parlays and stuff, I was running about.
Don't do that.
I was running about 70%. So.
Jesus.
Yeah, that's good. Have you found yourself like itching to gamble on nearly everything that you do in life? Have your relationships suffered? Has your normal work suffering? Have you been drinking more? That's usually the side effects of gambling.
If I drank more, I'd be dead. But no, I haven't found myself trying to bet on everything yet because I haven't fully gotten confident. I haven't gotten that level of confidence yet.
It'll come.
I'll get there.
It'll come with the drinking,
and it'll be bad. But I haven't gotten that level of confidence yet. Speaking of drinking, I've got Crabbie's alcoholic ginger beer. This was, full disclaimer, this was sent to us by them. But it's a relaunch, so I'm going to go ahead and read from the one sheet, the backstory. John Crabbie sourced only the finest Asian ginger and exotic spices to bring Crabbie's alcoholic ginger beer to life, which after being steeped for 6 weeks creates a deliciously refreshing beverage. Crabbie's is made with purely natural flavors, no artificial and hard-to-pronounce sweeteners, and most importantly, real harvested Asian ginger roots. The refreshing ginger flavor is the main ingredient in the secret recipe from 200-plus years ago that has been passed down from generation to generation. I'll have a full review on this later in the show. I will say ginger beer is typically something I steer away from, but my first impressions on this are that this one's different in a good way. So we'll have a full review about midway through. Let's go ahead and get into some non-coaching related news, and then we'll get the Black Monday stuff.
News.
All right, starting off, Ben Roethlisberger going to undergo a checkup on his injured elbow in February to determine what's next in his recovery timeline. So, if I remember right, and correct me if I'm wrong, it was a UCL injury. He did not undergo Tommy John and opted to try to rehab it. So, what I'm reading from that is there's a possibility that come February, if that didn't heal right, he could be undergoing surgery then.
Isn't he just sort of like the next one in line, though, with that draft class? I mean, Eli's going to hang it up. Phillip Rivers is, on his last legs. Ben Roethlisberger has just been taking a beating. He can't move. He just takes hits all the time. Isn't he just going to be the next one in line to be done anyways?
It sounds like it, but from what we've seen in years past, is that when people get injured, they want to come back and kind of go out on their own terms. But
True.
I have a fear that he's not going to be ready to come back next year after this. Obviously, depending on how the rehab went, it's more something to be aware of that February is an important time for Ben Roethlisberger and the entire Steelers offense because we saw how much it suffered without him,
right,
and potentially without AB and Bell. So, just something to be aware of.
DJ is always good for a Ben Roethlisberger take.
Yeah, fuck this guy, dude. I hate him with a passion. I hope he can't come back. If he does, we're just gonna hear all about how injured he is. I'm done with this guy. I hope he just calls it a year. Go draft another quarterback.
All right. In Dynasty kicker news, the best kind of news, the Jets have signed Brett Maher to a reserve future contract. He's the only kicker under contract. Sam Ficken was playing on a 1-year deal. So the Cowboys got Maher because, the kicker was the problem with the offense.
Right.
I don't know what that does anything or affects any of my thoughts on the Dallas Cowboys.
It doesn't. we're a for the brand show. We're pro kickers. So
all right.
Bears tight end Trey Burton set for offseason hip surgery, which is kind of surprising since he's been on IR since early November. I don't know why they wouldn't have taken care of this then, and instead of waited till after the end of the year. So, yeah, don't really know what's going on there. It was a calf injury that landed him on IR. So he's kind of been a bust, which we predicted, but nobody else really seemed to.
Trey Burton has not been relevant in my life since he played for the Florida Gators. And at that point, he was the one-show pony, man. They were like influx of quarterbacks. The dude was tight end. He was running the ball. He was wildcat quarterback. And I think he maxed out. I think they overutilized him, and I don't really see him being relevant, especially if he's with the Bears. I mean, they just fired a whole set of coordinators. So
they did. We'll get to that.
Yeah, I don't see a lot of promise there. Like you said, it's news. It's the offseason.
Yeah, it's the offseason. It's news, but I wouldn't be surprised if they try to draft somebody. I've noted it is not worth it for them to cut Trey Burton to save cap money, though. It doesn't really save money. So he'll be there.
Yeah.
When asked if Le'Veon Bell would be the Jets' running back next season, Coach Adam Gase said, "Ask Joe Douglas." So the media did, and Joe Douglas stated that they're going to listen to trade offers over the offseason.
This Adam Gase guy is unbelievable, and he's so arrogant for no reason. Like, I can understand maybe arrogance if you're winning or if you've won games like Mike McCarthy in the past, but Adam Gase just has this arrogance and doesn't win football games, and I don't know how any team puts up with this guy anymore. He's a joke. Like, do something, guy.
Quarterback whisperer.
Oh yeah, well we talk about this on Loaded Box all the time. What's he whispered? He had Peyton Manning. Peyton Manning was whispering himself. Like he literally has whispered no quarterbacks. I don't even know what that means, but it sounds funny. The crazy thing too with Adam Gase, we've seen this recently. As soon as players get away from him and his system, they are flourishing. Ryan Tannehill has a brand new name now because he's left Adam Gase, and DJ coined him as Tyler Tannehill because he's a brand new quarterback now. You get Kenyon Drake out of Miami and out of Adam Gase. Boom, he goes off. Mike Gesicki's going off this year. Devontae Parker has a career year and a contract extension. Dude, Adam Gase is going to ruin Sam Darnold's career.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think Adam Gase will be there beyond next year, but you're right. And we saw with Le'Veon Bell, and it's real hard. Makes it real hard to assess Le'Veon Bell because we saw him start to fall off a little bit with the Steelers, just wear, tear, and usage. Then he sits out for a year. And then he comes back, but he's with Adam Gase where nobody seems to produce. And it's not just Gase. He keeps bringing the same offensive coordinators with him that didn't work with the Bears, didn't work with the Dolphins, and now haven't worked with the Jets. So real hard to assess. I think for fantasy, it's better off if the Jets do trade Le'Veon Bell.
Yes, absolutely agree.
Yeah.
All right, Bears wide receiver Anthony Miller going to undergo a surgery on his left shoulder. Second straight offseason that happened. And we saw Anthony Miller kind of be relevant over the last 6 games of the season, averaged about 7 receptions, 75-plus yards, as the Bears started to force the ball downfield more, and that coincided with more success on offense and more success for the team. Miller got off to a slow start after shoulder surgery last season, so another thing just to be aware of coming into next year. Doesn't move the needles on the Bears for me one way or another. I'm sure you guys probably feel the same about that.
Pretty much. It looks like I saw on the bottom line a day or two ago that they're committing to Trubisky for at least 2020. So I think right there tells you pretty much everything you need to know about Anthony Miller.
Yep. And, well, maybe. But at the same time, Anthony Miller was, I don't have the specifics in front of me of where he was over the last 6 games, but he was very relevant over that time.
He was relevant. So. I'll give you that. He was relevant, but not a guy that going into drafts I would want to make sure I need Anthony Miller. He's like that waiver wire priority guy.
Yeah. All right. You mentioned it. Ryan Pace did state they plan to stay committed to Mitchell Trubisky as their starting quarterback, and that really makes sense. Gase is going to, or not Gase, should be Gase. Nagy's going to ride or die by that. Same person. Nagy's going to ride or die by that. They did fire Mark Helfrich, which we'll get to that in a minute. And really deep dive into the Bears when we get there. But it will be Trubisky next season. Phillip Rivers is going to be, or potentially could be on the move. Anthony Lynn would not fully commit to the impending free agent, stating starting for the Chargers in 2020. Rivers had said he'd consider playing for another team and gave a tearful press conference using such emotional language as shoot and dadgummit, which for Phillip Rivers, that is over the top.
Yeah, I listened to this, and I think it's time for them to move on from Phillip Rivers. Let him go somewhere else. Most of these quarterbacks end up ending their career nowadays at another team. So I think they need to. They might be a team that's looking to make a move in the draft and get up ahead of the Dolphins to get a guy like Tua, huh?
Yeah, they very well could be. They do have Tyrod Taylor under contract for next season if they need a bridge quarterback, especially if Tua isn't ready to go. And Easton Stick is a guy last season that we thought kind of along the same lines of Gardner Minshew was a later round pick that showed some talent and could have a little bit of promise. So you go into a quarterback competition and Tua has time to recover. I like that. And when I saw Phillip Rivers might move on, my first thought was Tampa Bay.
I don't mind that, but going back to his press conference, think about this. This guy has 800 children. He has trained himself how to use offensive or foul language to the point where he's an NFL quarterback in a locker room with a lot of people that just want to throw out expletive all the time. He's holding true to his guns, man. He has Bob Saget on whatever that show was back in the
Full
day when we were
House.
all young and watching it. Full House. Yeah, that's what he is now.
Yeah, when everybody, except he doesn't have the stand-up career where he's talking about, I don't know. I had something there, like fucking and sodomy and all sorts of stuff.
Blame it on the alcohol.
Yeah.
Funny, though, that you mentioned Tampa Bay, because they look like a team that I don't know what the heck they're going to do at that position, but maybe they go with like a veteran for a little while and see what's going on. But yeah, you look at where the Chargers are going to end up drafting now. Tua potentially there, Justin Herbert potentially there, Jordan Love potentially there. They're going to have options. And I kind of thought maybe they would make a play the last year or two at trying to get a quarterback into the system.
Yeah.
But I think this is the year. I think they're getting a quarterback one way or another. That's a young guy.
They could, and I'm not sure what the offensive line class looks like, but that really is going to be a problem for them also. So they could very well take the Colts approach also and fix that and go with Tyrod for a year and look to draft a quarterback next year also. Just a thought. I wouldn't advise it because this quarterback class is so deep, but that is another route they could choose to go because the offensive line has really kind of hampered them a ton, especially in the passing game. Not so much the running game, but the passing game.
And honestly, barring trades, I mean, they're kind of in that sweet spot. They're picking 6. This draft doesn't have like that tackle that's going like 1, 2, or 3. But if they're at 6 and they like one of the guys, I mean, that would be a sweet spot for them. Or they could even trade back and maybe get one of the guys. You've got a couple of guys from Bama. You've got a guy from Georgia. You've got a couple of options here. So, yeah, I actually wouldn't mind going that route as well.
Yep. You mentioned the Bucs, and Bruce Arians was not committed to a reunion with quarterback Jameis Winston, stating it would be discussed in the coming weeks. When asked if they could win with another quarterback, his response was an all-timer. Another quarterback? We can win with this one. We sure can win with another one. So, not exactly glowing reviews, but I love Bruce Arians' honesty. Jameis is interesting. I like Jameis. I like the gunslinger mentality. I like the fact that he's not afraid to force it downfield. I like the 33 touchdowns, 5,000 plus yards, and amount of throwing he did. But the interceptions is really the bad part here. And I think if they do re-sign him, I don't think it's long term. I think it's kind of along the lines of what the Jaguars did with Blake Bortles on a 1 or 2 year kind of prove it deal.
I love me some Jameis Winston. I predicted like 40 touchdowns and 30 interceptions, and he came through for me pretty much last year, or this last year. But I don't know what you're doing. I guess if you don't bring back Jameis, you're kind of just having to start over. He's a starting NFL quarterback. He's got a lot of self-confidence. Obviously, he says he can be one of the best if he cuts down on interceptions. Obviously, through 30 fucking interceptions, Jameis.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. I don't see them. I don't know if it's time to move on from Jameis yet because the guy can play. I don't know. It's tough. It sucks to go through that quarterback carousel all the time. So
I'm with you. I think that they may be better off trying to hit on a guy they like in the later rounds, like what Jacksonville did with Minshew, and stick with Jameis for another year or two.
Just to pop in really quick, you talk about like, what are you going to do if you get rid of him? And it's like, what are you going to do when you have him? What team has ever had like long-term success in the playoffs, success in the Super Bowl, when your quarterback is averaging, 2 interceptions a game, basically? You can't give up that many possessions. You're better off seeing what you have with anyone else at this point, rather than just setting your franchise back yet another year with the same guy. That would be my counter argument to why you shouldn't have him.
My counter argument to your counter argument, though, and this is one I made with Dan last week, is you can do things to help protect that, though, too. You can help the offensive line. This is a get downfield and throw it offense. You can give Jameis more time to make those reads and help his decision-making along. You can give him some semblance of a running game, which the Ronald Jones flash, but they really don't have. And you can give them some defense to where they're not constantly in shootouts or having to play from behind, especially as far as the secondary goes. The run defense was all right, but the secondary was atrocious. So I think there's some things that they can do around Jameis to help him out and not necessarily have to move on with him, because I agree with DJ. He's got the arm talent. And the fact that he threw for 5,000 yards and 30-plus touchdowns proves that he can be an effective quarterback, but you got to do some things to help him out also.
That's actually where I wanted to go initially, and it's kind of off topic, but it deals with Jameis Winston. It's the fact that this whole like NFL 100 team coming out with like the top 100 players or whatever. We need to do everything possible when we're comparing players to break them up by when they were playing, the era they were playing. Because the fact that Jameis Winston joins an elite group of people who have thrown for 5,000 yards, when like a guy like, I'm going to be a little homer here, but when Dan Marino did it and he threw for 5,000 yards and 48 touchdowns in his second season, it was like we've never seen this before, and they didn't see it right away afterwards. Now you have a guy like Jameis Winston who is just chucking the shit out of the ball everywhere, throwing for 5,000 yards. It means nothing. Those stats mean nothing anymore. You can't even compare these kind of guys anymore.
There's only been 8 people to do it, though, and it's not like the NFL's only been a past league for a year. I mean, Drew Brees has done it 5 times, but outside of that, it's still an irregularity. And I agree with the sentiment because 3,000 yards used to be the benchmark, and then it was 4,000, right. And now we're talking 5,000 is potentially the benchmark, but he's still only the 8th guy to do it. One more thing on Jameis is the comparison to Peyton Manning is through the first couple of years. I think he's it might be a little bit of a stretch because of how good Peyton ended up being, but it also still gives you a little bit of hope with the fact that he's only 25. And, I think people seem to forget that, Peyton was not great throughout his first few years. He had some things that he had to work through that came with experience. And that's not to say Jameis will be Peyton. I don't think that's going to happen. But, just the other thing to remember is that he is still really, really young, and there is still plenty of time to improve.
I could make a whole podcast about Jameis Winston. You don't want me to go there.
I could too, probably. Maybe we should just do that. Maybe we'll just sit down and debate Jameis Winston. Let everybody else listen to it.
I'll need more beer.
We did it with Brian Hoyer when he went to San Francisco. Yeah. We did 45 minutes on Brian Hoyer.
That's ridiculous.
I missed that episode.
It was like episode 4, so long time ago. We were still recording in my dining room when that happened.
I can't believe you made it to episode 5.
I can't believe we're on episode 274, honestly. The Colts assigned kicker Chase McLaughlin, tight end Mo Alley Cox, and Zach Pascal to 1-year extensions. So, kickers are always relevant. So Chase McLaughlin kind of signals the end of Vinatieri. Mo Alley Cox, just an athletic guy that they hope eventually blossoms into something. So Eric Ebron. And Zach Pascal, relevant when T.Y. was hurt, at least.
Right.
Yeah. Move on.
Yep, absolutely. Broncos GM John Elway essentially confirmed Drew Lock's going to be the team's starting quarterback next season, saying it's hard to see the team going in a different direction. They also picked up Von Miller's option and are going to attempt to extend Philip Lindsay. I think they have something in Drew Lock, and it isn't just because he apparently is an awesome rapper.
Oh, damn.
I
was going to mention that. And I was like, did you see that guy rapping on the sideline? You have to sign him. He's like, just with that much confidence.
I don't know how you cannot. Broncos going 16-0 next season with that.
Right.
Absolutely.
That guy's got the swag. It's like Swag Kelly with, I don't know, out the off-field problems.
Right. Without alcohol.
Exactly.
And without getting beat with a vacuum tube.
I was surprised that this was as much news as it was. I was like, oh, the Broncos are going with Drew Lock? Tell me something I don't know. Like, what else? What other direction are they going to go? Were they going to bring Joe Flacco back?
Yeah. Oh, I don't know why they wouldn't. I think that he showed enough, and I saw some things out of him, especially through his first 2 games, that, yeah, he's ready. He can go.
I like it. It's kind of like the way that the Chiefs did Mahomes as well. They essentially sat him the whole year, and then he played like the very end when during the Alex Smith period, and you let Drew Lock have the entire offseason. You let him see how like you can prepare for a game. You kind of like slow cook your quarterback, and rather giving him the whole year, they put him in towards the end of the year, which is like in my opinion, like the perfect way to do it, because then you get some in-game experience, you get the full offseason, then you have the preseason, then you're snapping into the regular season for your first all-out set of starting games. I love the way they did this, actually.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think they did it right.
Yep.
All right, let's go ahead and get to some Black Monday fallout. Talk about some things I actually like, people getting fired.
Black Monday.
All right, going to start off with the Redskins because they had an interim head coach. So they didn't really fire anybody other than Bruce Allen, which good. He should have been fired. I wish Dan Snyder could be fired.
Yep.
But they hired Ron Rivera to fill their coaching vacancy. Jack Del Rio has been brought in as defensive coordinator. How do you guys feel about the Rivera hire?
I'd first and foremost like to give DJ the floor. How do you feel about this Black Monday? Like, why is it got to be Black Monday?
Yeah, why is it gotta be Black Monday? I don't get it. Why is it gotta be black? Why can't it be White Monday? How do I feel about Ron Rivera? I don't know. I think he's a good coach. Gambles is not a bad hire by any means. I don't think he was the problem in Carolina. I just think it was lack of talent around him. So no, I like Ron Rivera.
I love that hiring too. It seemed like Carolina, like the Panthers players actually hated once they got rid of the coach.
Yep.
And not only is he like going to be able to do it his way, he already has brought in Jack Del Rio to coach the defense. We don't want Jack Del Rio anywhere near a head coaching spot. We want him coaching a unit. That's what he's good at. And now he has his guy on a team that actually showed a little bit of life maybe towards the end of the season. And picking number 2 overall, I mean, talk about a perfect opportunity. You can draft Chase Young, start fresh there with a stud defender. I like the hire.
Yeah, I like the hire also. Rivera kind of oversaw the Panthers rebuild and brought them to a Super Bowl team. He gets a chance to do that again with Washington. You got 2 really good defensive-minded coaches there. It's just a matter of now they got to get the personnel. We saw Haskins not be amazing, but he did progress pretty decently. We saw Terry McLaurin flash, and I think a lot of us thought more than I think a lot of us thought he was going to. If they can get Darius Guice healthy, they've got some nice pieces on offense. They're a long way away from having the personnel to compete, but I think these are the right guys to do it.
Mm-hmm.
All right, the Browns fired head coach. The Browns are just a shit show. There's so much on the Browns going on right now. They fired head coach Freddie Kitchens. That should have happened. I think that they shouldn't have just outright given him the job off the interim tag. GM John Dorsey was also fired because he refused to take a reduced role. So let's start there first off. How do you feel about both of those guys getting canned before we get into who they're pursuing?
I can lead off here. So I get it. Like, you got to get rid of Dorsey. And the way that things were going down with Kitchens, yeah, you only gave him the year, which is never a good scenario. Like, you need to give time to people time to get their players in, to get their systems in. I get that. But you instantly knew that this was not the guy. So I agree with getting him out. The question is going to turn into, who in the hell are you going to bring in that's going to be able to manage the egos on this team if nothing changes? Because I don't think anything's really going to change. I don't foresee like a huge, a bunch of moves or trades or anything. You're going to have this core, and you're going to have to bring in a guy. We already saw Baylor's coach decline an interview to even talk with them. You're having Baylor's head coach decline to take this job. Who are you going to get at this point? I get it. Kitchens wasn't the guy. I don't think they're going to be able to make a big splash hire here, though.
Yeah, Kitchens wasn't the guy. Kitchens and Todd Monken apparently bumped heads a lot. From what came out from that, it sounded like that what Kitchens was running on Sunday wasn't necessarily what Todd Monken or they had put in the game plan on Wednesday through Friday, basically. So I don't know how you can win on Sundays if you're not following your game plan. So Kitchens, I think, was a big problem, needed to be let go. As far as the egos go, you didn't really hear a whole lot out of that. There are definitely egos to manage, don't get me wrong. I think that might have been one thing Kitchen could have been okay with, was you didn't hear a whole lot out of Landry, Odell, Baker as far as targets or anything like that. But you are going to have to bring somebody in that continue to manage that, especially if they don't start winning. Winning fixes a lot of things. Losing does not. I think Dorsey did a good job getting the pieces in there that needed to get, but asking him to take a reduced role, I get why he didn't take it, why they separated, and you also can't have that type of turmoil anyway. So if he's not going to take a reduced role, get him out of there so you don't have that power struggle.
That franchise is a hot mess, and I love watching it for all these years.
So some guys that they are chasing. Ex-Packers head coach Mike McCarthy is going to interview Thursday. For GM, they're looking at Elliott Wolf, son of former Packers GM Ron Wolf. You've also got Chiefs offensive coordinator Eric Bieniemy, Greg Roman, who's the Ravens offensive coordinator, Patriots offensive coordinator Josh McDaniels, and 49ers offensive coordinator Mike LaFleur. They're also interviewing the 49ers defensive coordinator. So they're pretty much trying to get anybody and everybody in here to talk and looking for an offensive-minded guy, which I think makes sense given the pieces they have and the fact that this team has the offense to win now, or at least the talent on offense to win now. So, I agree with that, but I think you kind of need somebody with previous head coaching experience for what Ben said, egos.
It's almost like you would want the enemy from Kansas City, like knowing what Kansas City's been able to do on offense, and now looking at the Browns offense with all the pieces and what their potential is. Like you want a guy like that, but yeah, then like you said, it's a guy without head coaching experience. Can he manage more than just an offense? Can he manage coaching the entire team? Can he manage the egos? It sometimes comes down to more than just like the X's and O's part of it. That's why you don't even know if that would end up being a good hire. And at the same time, why in the hell would you leave Kansas City right now when you have one of like the guy that looks like one of the best quarterbacks that we're going to see statistically speaking anyways in recent history? Why would you leave that? Like I would just stay there. I would pull the Baylor move. I would just stay.
I wouldn't be shocked if they end up with Mike McCarthy. He seems like the obvious choice, I think, for them. Guy who's won in the past and had experience with, obviously a guy like Aaron Rodgers and guys like that in the locker room. So that one makes a lot of sense to me.
Wasn't his name floated around there last year when they were hiring Kitchens?
Yeah.
I thought maybe, yeah.
It was, and maybe this is a chance to make that right, because I think McCarthy out of that list makes the most sense. I don't trust McDaniels any further than I could throw him, or really anything that comes out of the Belichick coaching tree. I don't think that the Niners passing offense has shown enough for me to have a lot of faith in Mike LaFleur. It's really been the run and the defense that's gotten them where they're at. And I don't see Roman leaving Baltimore with the run they're on, and I don't see the pieces that Cleveland has fitting what Greg Roman does or has done. So I think it's Bieniemy and Mike McCarthy, but I think McCarthy is probably the smart sense. And there are more people than just this.
The thing too with McCarthy is, he took a year off, but during that year, he spent his time yelling at officials anyway. So it's not like he's that far out of game shape at this point.
Right. All right. Anything else on the Browns before we move on? By the way, it'll be Chief Strategy Officer Paul DePodesta in charge of the head coaching search since they don't have a GM.
That's a great name. Just for the podcast sake, I want to make sure DJ's still awake.
I'm here, man.
Oh my gosh. I thought my Mike McCarthy one-liner was going to get some sort of reaction out of you, and all you did was keep with your head on that pink pillow and no reaction. I thought you either died or your computer froze.
I'm in struggle mode right now.
Yeah. All right.
Still waiting for Dan to show up.
I'm still waiting for Dan to randomly show up also. We'll see if that happens. Panthers will be interviewing. We're also going to be interviewing Eric Bieniemy, by the way, for their open head coaching position. So, they also had an interim. We kind of got into earlier that we didn't think firing Ron Rivera was the right move, and there's a lot in flux with Carolina. I mean, the defense has some pieces. The offense, we know, has some pieces, but we don't know if they're going to bring Cam back. I think after Kyle Allen fell off of a cliff and Will Grier showed nothing, they probably should.
Yep.
But, we don't know. So I don't know what type of head coach you put in Carolina. I think they're just kind of destined for mediocrity.
Kind of what it looks like at this point. I mean, like you said, I think Carolina was one of those teams, especially over the last couple of years. I've struggled to put my finger on and say who are they and how good are they going to be? Because they have this all-purpose guy in McCaffrey that you want to feed the ball to. They're feeding him the ball all this time while they're like a 6 to 8 win team.
Right.
They clearly need more than that. They need the quarterback. They need the line. They need a leader to be in there. And at this point, what do you do at quarterback? We thought maybe when Kyle Allen stepped in, maybe there's something there. And that evaporated so damn fast. So now you're like, well, do we go back to Cam? He basically sat out the whole year. He should be fairly healthy. If he's not healthy at this point, you have to cut ties. You have to move another direction. But that's a huge question mark. Like I said, I struggle to pick up on what Carolina is and what they're going to do.
Such a confusing situation.
I'm with you. It's been that way for me for the last couple of years also, to where you just can't really – they're not a passing team. They're not a defensive team. But they have Christian McCaffrey and Cam Newton, and that's all been enough to win them some games. And
it might.
Greg Olsen.
Someone might be enticed as well. Number 7 pick in the draft in a fairly loaded draft is going to entice somebody, though. Like, you're going to be able to make a move there, or you're going to get an impact player there. Yeah. So there is something there. There's a little silver lining for having such a terrible season.
Yeah, I'm with you. And if they get an impact player, I'd say probably on defense. I think that's their quickest way to winning is to build up the defense and then just ride the offense through McCaffrey. And Ian Thomas isn't a bad tight end. DJ Moore's a competent wide receiver, and give Cam another shot.
Well, in the latest version of our mock draft on motorboxpodcast.com, I've got the Panthers taking defensive lineman Derek Brown out of Auburn at 7. A lot of people have him going like top 5. I had him dropping to 7 to the Panthers,
which would be a good pick. So,
probably a no-brainer at that point.
Yep, but yeah, I don't know what they put here, coaching-wise. It'll be going to be one of those things that it'll land, and I'm probably going to be like, oh, okay, and can find a way to make it make sense, and then we'll assess it then.
Right.
Jason Garrett's situation is still pretty unclear. He met with the Joneses on Tuesday, but there was no resolution. Multiple outlets have said that he and the whole coaching staff has been fired, or in his case, Garrett's case, it would be not re-signed. His contract's up. But nothing's really been confirmed there yet, and I personally think this has taken way too long for it to just be, we're done.
Yeah, it's really. I know Jerry Jones loves Garrett, but he talks so much shit about him this year. I'm just waiting for Jerry Jones to actually hire himself as the head coach and then fire himself throughout this sometime in the season, just because that's the type of thing Jerry Jones would do at this point.
Yeah. I don't know. Am I the only one that gets that impression, though, that for this to be he's gone completely, it just feels like it's taking too long?
Well, that's the thing, and the reports that I was reading it's that he doesn't need to re-sign him. It's basically let the time expire, and you can say, well, it's not that we necessarily fired him or said it was done. It's just his contract was up. We parted ways, and we moved on to the next guy. So it's almost like what DJ is saying, like Jerry Jones's loyalty and like being buddy here. It's almost like it's hindering the team from making the move at this point.
Right. And I wouldn't be surprised if they do just let it toll and expire, but then you handcuff yourself a little bit in your head coaching search because you're not out there competing to get some of these big names on the market. You got to pick from leftovers if that's how you play it.
That's exactly what it is, and that's what it's going to end up being. And this is why the Dallas Cowboys are what they are. They're continually one of the teams that like looks awesome on paper. They have spurts throughout the year, and what happens when it comes time to win a big game or win a playoff game? Nothing.
Or win a game against a winning team.
or beat someone other than the Redskins or the Giants.
Right. That's 4 wins right there on an 8-8
right.
team. So.
I'm getting a little off topic here, but I was just scrolling through the Twitter, and I just retweeted a tweet from Ben Albright, who we've had at a guest. It says there's lots of rumblings of Tua heading back to Alabama for the next year.
Really?
Yeah, that's been a thing actually recently. I was learning a lot about that when the whole Dolphins firing of their offensive coordinator and what their plans were going to be, and then they hired a fossil in Chan Gailey, who's going to be 68 in a couple of days here. So puzzling move there as well. I don't know if we were going to get to that, but yeah, a lot of the signs they said based on that hire was that Tua, that could be because of the fact that Tua might be returning to Bama for his senior season.
Huh. That would be interesting, and I don't know how I feel about that one as a career move. Especially
you said depressing wrong. That's what you said. As a Dolphins fan, you said depressing wrong. That would be depressing. Dude, I have spent the entire season watching every one of Tua's snaps. I almost got happy. I was almost happy when he got hurt just because I didn't have to watch a Gators game and every snap of an Alabama game every single week because I wanted to watch my franchise leaders every single play.
Yeah, Ben's going to kill himself if Tua goes back to college.
It's all right. The Dolphins will be in a position to pick him again.
Yep, that's true.
I'll have to carve another tank for Tua pumpkin this year.
Right. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know how I'd feel about that for Tua, though, because you just got hurt and are near career-ending injury. If you're gifted that second chance, you should go to the NFL, not try to get hurt in college again.
Absolutely.
Get your money.
Yeah, it's funny, too, because it was like, well, if the evaluation was back that he might not be a high pick, then he would go back and prove himself and then become that high pick again. But yeah, even if you're going to, I mean, look at how many quarterback needy teams there are. You're going to have a quarterback taken at number one.
And how good
the Detroit Lions are potentially in play. The Miami Dolphins are in play. The Chargers are in play. The Panthers are in play. Who knows what the Jaguars are going to do? You've got a ton of teams. The Colts are in play. The Buccaneers are in play. You have all these teams. Tua is going to be a high round pick unless these people know. Obviously, they know more than we do. But like, unless that talent evaluation is so off, I don't know what he's doing by going back.
Or do you think it could be the fact that they think he's going to slide so far because of the injury, and that he gets a bigger payday based on slot value if he's proves himself healthy and goes back and performs? Because this is a guy that was going to be a top 2 pick, and he's now probably not because of the injury and because of the other quarterbacks that are in this draft class. So, is it possible he goes back, gambles, and tries to get a bigger payday? And that's the only angle I can spin it from, is that he wants to go back and prove that he's healthy so that he's back to being a top, 5 pick.
Yeah, and that's what it would be. But at the end of the day, so just my perspective as a Dolphins fan, they're picking number 5. I honestly believe if they want Tua this year, if he would declare, I truly believe that they would need to trade up to number 3 to get him because of all the teams that need quarterbacks. And because what are you getting from Justin Herbert? I mean, he has shown so much inconsistency. It's almost like it's going to be Tannehill prior to this year 2.0. What are you going to get out of Jordan Love? Yes, the class is super deep, but when it comes to the all-out studs, it was Burrow and Tua. It was always those guys. He's still going to be that guy.
Yeah. No, I'm with you there, but is he still going to be that guy? Because I mean, again, the nature of a hip injury, he was very mobile. He wasn't a run-first quarterback, but that was part of his game to where he could take off if he needed to. Very mobile and very mobile within the pocket. So, maybe teams are worried about some of that going away too. I don't know.
Yeah, and you got to be. Look at what injuries did to Andrew Luck. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's got to be on people's minds right now.
It does. All right, and one more coaching note. Sorry, but you're welcome for the Tua and the draft tangent. A little preview there. As predicted last week, the Bears have fired Mark Helfrich. They've also fired their offensive line coach, tight ends coach, and assistant special teams coach. And honestly, it's a fall guy. Helfrich doesn't have control of the offense. Nagy does. Firing your offensive coordinator doesn't do anything unless Nagy's going to give up play calling. And that was what I called for last week, was not that he needs to be fired, but that he needs to bring in an offensive coordinator that he trusts and give up play calling.
It's almost like, here's a funny scenario. Couldn't they bring in a different head coach and just let Nagy do offensive coordinator? Obviously that's never going to happen, but that's where he's had his success. He's another one of those guys that you want coaching a unit. You want him coaching maybe the offense, the quarterbacks, whatever it ends up being. I just don't know that you want him head coaching. I look back to some of those games. That offense looked like almost like the Dolphins from the year before, just gimmicks. We're just going to run gimmick plays. We're going to throw it to Tariq Cohen out of the slot as a screen every other play. We're just going to do end arounds to Anthony Miller. Maybe every once in a while we'll hit Robinson, but that's just because teams are looking out for the gimmick play. They have people in play there. I don't know if it's just because Trubisky is that inconsistent where they haven't been able to make an offense be formidable. But man, whatever they were doing this year was not it.
It was a lot of, as a Bears fan, it was a lot of the play calling too. It wasn't just Trubisky, and I often wondered if they were limited by Trubisky or if they were limited by the play calling and Nagy not trying to protect Trubisky a little bit too much. And you saw it in a couple games where they'd start out dinking and dunking, everything's a screen pass, everything's behind the line, and then second half when they're down, they'd start forcing the ball downfield and have success with that. And then they went on a 3-game winning streak. They almost beat the Packers if it wasn't for a shitty special teams call. They, by moving the ball downfield. And when they started to play call in that manner, they had some success. Trubisky did have a turnover or two, but you got to let him make those mistakes if you want him to blossom or you want him to flourish, and that's what they weren't doing. So from what I saw, just as a Bears fan watching all 16 weeks, with a magnifying glass, it was play calling. It was the fact that they weren't trusting Trubisky to move the ball downfield for one way or another. And then when they started to do that, they had success. So
DJ is always good for a Bears take. I'm looking forward to this.
I honestly think they should just keep Matt Nagy and Mitch Trubisky forever. And that's the way they should go. Because I like it this way. I think it's hilarious. He's another guy. He's like Adam Gase. He's so arrogant, but I mean, he had one winning season, and then he comes out after not running the ball in that game they lost where they kicked the field goal and missed the field goal, and he comes out and goes, "What can happen if we pass it? Get thrown an interception and we lose." It's like, dude, you fucking lost the game. Like, what happens if you didn't run the ball at all? You lost, period.
You got to play to win. You can't play not to lose. If you play not to lose, you ultimately lose, and it doesn't matter what the sport is. I see it in hockey all the time, too. It doesn't matter what the sport is. You play not to lose, you're going to lose. But that's what they do. They play not to lose. And another rant of mine that I wanted to have, I had let the fire die down, and Ben brought it right back up. If you're going to be a head coach, be a head coach. If you want to be an offensive coordinator and call plays, be an offensive coordinator and call plays. We've seen it work with guys like Sean McVay, but Matt Nagy, Kyle Shanahan, just right out the gate, couple of Adam Gase, couple of lackluster passing offenses. I mean, you cannot. If you want to be an offensive coordinator, be an offensive coordinator. Right. You've moved on to a different job. Own that job and bring in an offensive coordinator and trust him to do his job. And
that's the truth.
It's the equivalent of Tony Romo, who's moved on to broadcasting, when he's calling a Cowboys game, saying, "Nope, don't trust this guy to go make this throw. Be right back. I'm going to go make this real quick."
No, that's exactly it. I love that. That's actually spot on. I actually like DJ's analysis as well. It's like, keep those guys there. One less team in this division is great. That's why I'm all about that. Let the Jets keep Adam Gase as long as they want him. I totally endorse him. Be 7-9. Just live at 7-9. I've lived at 7-9. How old am I? 32, 33? I've lived at 7-9 my entire life. It's the Jets' turn.
That's a good year. It's a good year for the Dolphins.
I just keep winning. I'm the winner on this podcast.
Whatever. All right, I'm gonna go to a beer review, then we'll get into the last half of this.
Beer review.
All right, Ben, putting you on the spot. What do you think of Badger Sweat?
So I loved the Badger Sweat. I know that you read a lot of your can. I'm only going to read the last part because that's what really distinguishes what this is. Because we are excited to bring you a vanilla bean milk stout. And I've had a lot of milk stouts in my life, but I really like this one. I'm not going to lie. It's 6% alcohol by volume. They've got a pretty cool logo on their can. I actually went to the brewery about a month or so ago. They had about 20 different beers on tap. All of them that I had were legit. They had a peanut butter and jelly beer. Oh my gosh, I could have at least 2 of those before getting full. I mean, they were that thick, but they were legit. But no, in regards to the Badger Sweat by Hillsborough Brewing Company, I definitely recommend it. It says here that women should not drink this if they're pregnant. But other than that, anyone else can have it. So it's good to go.
All right. Sounds delicious. If I'm ever up that way, I'm going to have to pop into Hillsborough because that sounds fantastic. So, so I had Crabbie's ginger beer. And by the way, was not reading the bottle. I was reading the one sheet that they sent me when they sent me the beer because when it's provided alcohol, I, want to do right by them.
Fair enough.
So I mentioned in the intro that I'm not the biggest fan of ginger beer, just naturally. I'm normally not a big fan of the spice. It gives me like heartburn, if you will, just because of the natural spices in it. Kind of don't like the aftertaste. Not the biggest Moscow Mule fan. And this is very, very drinkable, even for me, for a guy that's not high up on ginger beer. And this is in honest opinions. This is not not because they sent it to us. This is honest opinion. This is actually a very, very good ginger beer. It's a little bit sweeter, and I think that the sweetness really offsets what the spice that ginger normally brings. You can still taste the ginger. It's still there, but it's not harsh on the finish like a lot of ginger beers are. So like I said, it's a bit sweeter, has more of a like cider body to it, and more of a cider type of finish just with the ginger flavor. So I thought it was really, really good. It's honestly the first ginger beer I've had that I can genuinely say that I like. So thank you, Crabbies, and we'll have them on again next week, but we're gonna do some cocktails with it and see what it does there. So But thank you to those guys. Let's get back to some of those Black Monday stuff, though. So the Jaguars are retaining Doug Marrone and all the coaching staff for the 2020 season after there's speculation that he might be fired after Week 17. And I want to get your guys' opinion on this. Dan and I talked about this at length last episode. I have an opinion, but I wonder how you guys feel about Doug Marrone being maintained or retained.
I'll let DJ kick this one off.
Why? I don't know why you said that. I don't know. It's kind of a weird. I thought it was a weird move. They haven't done anything since Blake Bortles has left. Once he's gone, the whole franchise went down the drain once Blake Bortles left, and it's just been a shit show. I don't think he's the guy. I'm really surprised. There was rumblings earlier, of course, of him getting fired. All of a sudden, they decided to retain him. I don't know what he said to convince them. I don't like the move. I don't think he's the guy. I don't think he's very analytical. He just goes out there and calls plays and runs the ball a lot, and it's kind of what he does. And I don't think how he coaches is a recipe to win in the NFL. I don't like it.
No, I'm with you. Not these days. I don't think it is. Ben, what are your thoughts on Marrone before I give my full take?
When the news came out that they were looking to part ways with him, I put it out on our Twitter, Unloaded Box, was when you give a quarterback like Nick Foles such a big contract based on such a small sample size, when you've seen so much more of him just being an average to below average quarterback, this is what's going to happen. Your coach is going to have his job being called for because you're probably not going to be a great team. And that's what we saw this year. And it's funny that once he came back, I was still a believer. I'm like, you know what? Like, the Jags should be okay. They're not going to be a great team, but they should be okay. And it took, a week or two before Minshew was back and the team looked not much better, but a little bit better anyways. The writing was on the wall here. At this point, I think the Jaguars, by keeping him, are just delaying the inevitable. It's just another team kind of stuck in mediocrity. We see it too often.
It is a team stuck in mediocrity, and I don't agree with some of the personnel decisions that he's made.
Nope.
I think getting rid of Tom Coughlin does help the culture there, but I think that when they got rid of Coughlin, they should have committed to just blow it up and give it the full rebuild, at least from a coaching staff perspective. You potentially have a 6th-round quarterback on the cheap right now that is shown that he can be at least serviceable as a starter through his first year, let alone whatever he develops. I mean, Minshew had a better first year than some high-round draft picks have had over the last couple of years. You've got a running back that has been all right when he's healthy. There's some other pieces that you need, but they failed over the last couple of seasons, I think, to really put personnel there and to put people there to succeed, and that falls on Doug Marrone. And I agree. I don't think that you win with run the football and play defense in today's NFL unless you have an elite defense, and they haven't had that for several years. Most of those guys have walked or gone or they've regressed, and I think Marrone should have been canned. I think that they should have fully committed to changing up the coaching staff and changing up the front office, and to continue to build around the personnel that they have, but they didn't do it, and I think that's a mistake. I think he's a good candidate to get canned mid-year.
Oh, I think that's spot on. And I think that your take was spot on, with the only exception being you either need an elite defense if you're going to run the hell out of the ball, or you need to have a very good defense and you need to have the Baltimore Ravens offense.
Yeah, and an offensive line.
Yes.
They don't have that either.
Right.
So the Giants fired head coach Pat Shurmur. They've requested to interview Ravens defensive coordinator Don Wink Martindale. They also have interest in Bieniemy, McCarthy, McDaniels, Cowboys defensive coordinator Chris Richard, and Baylor head coach Matt Rule. Dave Gettleman is keeping his job. So per John Mara, he needs to, quote, increase his batting average. So Gettleman should have been canned.
Yep.
That's basically where I'm at here. I hate Dave Gettleman. I don't know what the hell the Giants are doing. I don't know what the hell this team's been doing personnel-wise, draft-wise. Dave Gettleman should have been canned. Shurmur was his fall guy.
Remember when Dave Gettleman was taking a victory lap after one Daniel Jones start, and he was like, "Hey, where are all you haters now?" And then the rest of the season played out. It's like, okay, where are you now, Dave Gettleman? I totally agree with what Hop just said. Yeah, Shurmur, he's the fall guy here. You're set up to not succeed in that role. I hate to sound like a broken record, but yeah, you're stuck in mediocrity as well. It's funny, the Giants just kind of in general, remember like when Eli was like in his prime, it was a good year, a bad year, a good year, a bad year. And some of those good years produced results. There was a couple of Super Bowls in there, but at the end of the day, Eli ended up finishing his career literally as like a 500 quarterback. I think he might have finished a game or two under. That's what this team has been. They are the definition of mediocrity. They're going to be stuck there as long as Gettleman is there.
Yeah.
No, I think he was 117 and 117 actually. So I think he was exactly 500.
On?
Yeah,
I know it was close. Thanks for nitpicking me.
Well, yeah, I'm gotta get things right here. I hate teams like this. They're so confusing and analyzing them, and yeah, Gettleman should not be there either. Yeah, one of my favorite quotes he had was, "We'll see how crazy I am in 3 years." Dude, you're just fucking crazy. This Daniel Jones turning the ball over constantly is not conducive to winning. Saquon Barkley's trying to do everything by himself, and he's kind of a big play hitter. I don't know what they're gonna do. They have so many gaps to fill on that team that you can't fill in a draft and in the offseason. It's ridiculous. And they just don't have the guy to do it in David Gettleman.
Yeah, not in one draft, and you got to get creative with it, and he's not the guy to do it. Head coach-wise, as long as Gettleman's there, I don't think it matters who they bring in. I don't think they're going to be great. So, yeah, I don't think that the head coach can do enough with the personnel that's there to make a difference. So,
spot on.
Go ahead and bring in somebody I want to see get fired or fail. Bring in Josh McDaniels.
Yeah, there you go.
I don't think he's crazy enough to go there.
I don't think he is either, but I would love it just because I know that that's not a situation he can succeed in.
Right.
All right. Ben, this is tailor-made for you. The
Beautiful.
Dolphins fired offensive coordinator Chad O'Shea and their O-line coach. They've hired ex-Jets offensive coordinator Chan Gailey, who, as you mentioned, is a freaking dinosaur. 68, so he's just barely younger than Tom Brady. And he hasn't coached since 2016. He does run a spread offense, so that does kind of play a little bit. And he did get 3,000 yards out of Tyler Thigpen one point in time. So,
Jesus.
but
I could have swore that the next time I saw the name Chan Gailey on the ESPN bottom line scroll,
he'd be dead,
saying that he died. Yeah, I would have bet a lot of money on that. It's crazy too because so the Dolphins were historically bad running the ball this year, but they showed a little bit of flash, a little bit with the passing game, and they were set up to fail. I mean, they traded Tunsil. They had a bunch of injuries on the offensive line. They had no running backs. They weren't set up to succeed. I don't think it was the offensive coordinator's fault. So when they fired Chad O'Shea, the theory was, well, I forgot the guy's name now. It's the quarterback's coach. He's going to be a hot commodity if Josh Daniels goes somewhere. So if we fire the offensive coordinator, we promote the quarterback's coach to offensive coordinator, he'll stay. And out of left field, that move doesn't happen, and Chan Gailey is brought in. And for a team that they almost set the record for most amount of like transactions during a season and a number of people that literally played. It's an all-out youth movement. And I get you don't need your coaches to be young, but in order to relate to these guys, in order to keep up with the times, bringing in a 68-year-old offensive coordinator who hasn't coached since 15, 16, I think the year was with the Jets, and it's not like the Jets were good then anyways, is super puzzling because you have all of these young pieces and just interchangeable guys. It's like, why are you bringing in a guy who's no better than just a stopgap offensive coordinator? That's literally what I see this with. Obviously can't be long-term. It's got to be a stopgap hire. It's just super puzzling. I've spent the better part of 3 days trying to understand it and trying to get behind the move. So far, I'm drawing blanks. I can't come up with anything.
I've got nothing to add.
Nope, that was pretty much perfect. I think that they bring him in and try to at least show some semblance of efficiency with the passing game. Let Brian Flores do his thing on defense and try to Buccaneers this thing and win without a running game.
Well, here's the another puzzling part. They're trying to get young. They're trying to build for the future. But yet they brought in, and here's the thing why Chan Gailey relates to the Dolphins right now. It's because he used to coach Ryan Fitzpatrick. You mean to tell me this team is going to try to make all these youth movement moves, and then they're still going to like try to build around Ryan Fitzpatrick at the same time? It's mind-boggling. I was all in on the tank. Like, give me all the youth that you can get. But now we're going to build around this guy? like I said, I could do a whole podcast on this one as well, Hop. So I won't try to kill it with too much Dolphins talk.
You're all right.
But it's a puzzling move.
It is. I agree. The Fitzpatrick thing specifically is puzzling because why? He's a late or mid 30s journeyman. You're not building around him unless you're prepared to bring somebody in that is familiar with spread offense, quarterback wise.
Yeah, it clearly does not make sense with how they've been doing. There was rumors about Chad O'Shea, the former Dolphins offensive coordinator, being the one that was pounding the table for Josh Rosen. And once they brought him in, he just wasn't the quarterback that they hoped he had been. So maybe there was some bad blood there. But it's weird though, because that's a guy that came with Brian Flores to Miami. So you almost thought like, hey, these guys are going to be ride or die together. Like they're going to be for the long haul. Especially after winning 5, no one expected them to win games. The national media was yelling at the Dolphins for putting their players into unsafe conditions. And they go out and win 5 games and ended up with the 5th pick in the draft. Like it's the whole idea of tanking, let's go all in on the youth movement. And then these kind of moves, almost committing to Fitzpatrick and committing to a guy like Chan Gailey, goes against everything that they basically did all season.
Yep. All right. One last thing, John Gruden stated the whole Raiders coaching staff is going to be retained for 2020. So, more mediocrity.
DJ, you love a little John Gruden.
Are they still the Raiders now, or what? Do they have a new team name? I don't even know.
No, they're still the Raiders, just Las Vegas.
Should be the Gamblers.
Raiders. John Gruden. I don't know what to say about them.
This guy.
Are they going to return? It's their whole Derek Carr situation. I mean, he's a quarterback that can win games, but just for some reason, John Gruden's, I think, terrible at evaluating talent. The guy loves
Loves everybody.
He loves Nathan Peterman, but he hates Derek Carr.
Oh, easy. Nathan Peterman is the future of that franchise.
Yeah. Remember who you're talking to here, DJ.
Yeah, remember who you're talking to.
He's trash. No, John Gruden is not the answer either. He's an old school. He's just got to go back to Monday Night Football and get fucking Booger out of there.
That's his most useful place. By the way, Greg Olson, trash offensive coordinator too. Hate Greg Olson as an offensive coordinator. He limited Blake Bortles so freaking hard. That's all.
That's all. You just got to get the Blake Bortles and Nathan Peterman shout outs there, don't you?
Of course. Yeah. This is a guy. He's a guy that couldn't figure out that you need to move Allen Robinson around to get him open.
Right.
So, yeah. There we go.
I thought Dan might have walked in the door the way you looked over there for a second.
No, Dan is not here. If he'd be here, if he's here, that would be really, really weird. So.
Well, he did get pretty hammered last night. He might just wind up everywhere.
Show up.
He might be on your couch. You just might not know it.
Right.
He got into the house but didn't make it to the...
I walk out there and Dan's just lying on my couch randomly. He drove 2 hours hungover to get here.
Dead.
All right, guys. Thank you very much for coming on and doing this without Dan here and making this more, a successful thing. I know that we planned on Dan being here, but I appreciate it. Want to give your podcast, social media, one more shout out here, and tell them where to find you, what you're working on.
Yeah, basically everything we have is on loadedboxpodcast.com. Our podcasts are there, all of our articles, blogs, mock drafts. One of the things that me, DJ, and we have intern Logan, shout out to intern Logan. One thing we've been working on right now is our college football live betting blog. So basically before every single game, we are going on there with our insights for the game, our gambling, strategies, takes, thoughts for the game. I've gone through some spurts personally where I've been a little hot. I got cold, but I got hot again here yesterday with the bowl game. So if you go to our website, loadedboxpodcast.com, you can see me, DJ, and intern Logan's work there. But all of our podcast episodes are there as well as on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, and YouTube.
Go Pack, go.
All right. Well, I said I don't edit. That part might get edited out.
Well, we haven't talked about the Packers at all, and I don't even think I said Aaron Rodgers' name yet.
I don't have anything to say about the Packers. I hope they lose.
Okay, man.
No, it'll never be okay. At Beerfield
It
FF.
will never be okay. That's correct.
At Beerfield FF for us. Nick Sparts will be back next week to do the Fuelies with us. So he's our guest, listener Nick Sparts. Thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you for listening. If you're not following us on YouTube, go do that. Subscribe, like, hit the notification icon. You can show up, interact with us, ask questions. By the way, there were questions I wasn't paying attention to. You guys want to answer a question real quick? Because I completely was ignoring
you.
YouTube.
It's probably like, why is DJ sleeping
and
on a
I
pink
shouldn't
pillow?
have been. Also, Ryan Miner says Happy New Year's.
Oh, nice.
Boys and boss. Drinking a large black coffee. Yeah, I had a large black coffee earlier. Darren Gray would like to know, he just won the championship in Superflex with Rivers, Trubisky, and Big Ben as his quarterbacks, which well done. Would you trade the 212 and Christian Kirk for Daniel Jones?
I'm I don't know if you can see me or not. I'm guessing if you're on YouTube, you can. I was just shaking my head. No, I know that you need some quarterback help there, but is Daniel Jones going to be your answer? I personally would struggle with that move.
No,
knowing how many quarterbacks are in this next draft, and hopefully you can get one of them. I don't think I would give away draft capital for a guy like Daniel Jones right now.
Nope, I'd give up Kirk, try to hit on a guy that lands nice. I wouldn't give up Kirk for that. I'd keep the 212. I'd try to hit on a guy that lands well. You should be able to get 2 starters out of Rivers, Trubisky, and Big Ben. None of them are retiring, so you may have to play matchups and continue to pay attention to that, but you should still have 3 guys that are going to play week in and week out that you can use to fill those spots. I don't think you're in dire need yet, especially as a championship team. Continue to ride that wave, continue to ride those guys, spend some draft capital, and just try to hit on a younger guy. And if he doesn't hit immediately, you're still okay because, like I said, you've got pretty much 3 starters. So there you go, Darren. Sorry it took us a second to get to you. I don't have Dan here watching the YouTube stream with me, and I just wasn't paying attention, so I apologize for that. All right. That's all we got. Catch you next week.